It began with an image that felt almost otherworldly, a woman standing in quiet defiance, her long dark hair framing a face both angelic and wild, her eyes glimmering with innocence and untamed power. She was Nova, the silent beauty of Planet of the Apes. Though she never spoke a single line, her presence commanded the screen. Behind that voiceless performance was the real story of a woman who fought fiercely to be seen, to be loved, and to be remembered. Linda Harrison became a symbol of an era that glorified beauty yet seldom granted women control of their own destinies. Her story, built on ambition, heartbreak, and quiet perseverance, began long before Hollywood lights ever touched her face, and it would continue long after the cameras stopped rolling. Linda Melson Harrison's journey began in the small town of Berlin, Maryland, born on July 26, 1945, into a post-war America full of dreams and uncertainty. Even as a child, she had a spark that drew people in. With striking features and an easy confidence, she seemed destined for the spotlight. Her mother encouraged that natural charisma, entering her into local beauty pageants where Linda didn't just win, she captivated. By her teenage years, she had become a hometown sensation, a girl whose confidence and poise hinted at bigger things ahead. No one then could have imagined how far her charm would carry her, or how steep the climb and fall would be after finishing high school. Linda packed her ambitions and moved to New York City. She envisioned herself on magazine covers and movie posters, chasing the version of herself she believed she could become. Modeling brought some recognition, but real acting work was harder to find. She faced countless rejections, each one testing her resolve. Yet Linda refused to quit. She trained diligently, learning voice control, movement, and the subtleties of screen acting, determined to prove she was more than another pretty face in a crowded city. Her persistence paid off when she secured a studio contract with 20th Century Fox. Stepping into a world that shimmered with allure but was fraught with danger, it was there she met the man who would change the course of her life, Richard Zanuck, a powerful studio executive and the son of legendary producer Darryl F. Zanuck. Their connection was immediate. Richard saw something special in her, not just her beauty but her hunger to succeed. Their romance was fast, passionate, and soon turned serious. When they married, Linda became both a rising star and the wife of one of Hollywood's most influential young producers. For many, that would have meant security and opportunity. For Linda, it became both an open door and a shadow she could never quite escape. Then came the role that would define her forever, Nova, in Planet of the Apes. Though her character spoke no words, Linda's expressive performance gave the film its beating heart. Her portrayal of a mute human surviving in a dystopian world, ruled by apes, carried a strange beauty. She represented innocence, humanity, and vulnerability in a society turned upside down. When the movie exploded into a cultural phenomenon, so did she. Practically overnight, Linda Harrison was a star. But in Hollywood, fame can turn from a blessing to a curse in an instant. Rumors began to swirl, whispers that her relationship with Zanuck had helped her land the coveted role. It was a cruel narrative that hurt deeply. Linda had worked hard, yet the industry seemed determined to credit her success to someone else's influence. Even as her on-screen presence drew praise, the substantial roles she deserved never came. When she reprised her role as Nova in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, she hoped it would cement her place in Hollywood's ranks. Instead, it marked the height of her fame, followed by a long and painful slide downward. As the 1970s arrived, Linda's life began to fracture. Her marriage to Richard Zanuck, once the center of her world, started to unravel under the strain of Hollywood's pressures. When they finally separated, the split was devastating, both personally and professionally. Her career at Fox, once supported by her husband's position, seemed to vanish overnight. She had gone from starring in one of the decade's biggest films to struggling to find work at all. For a woman who had lived under constant scrutiny, the fall was sharp and unforgiving. Still, Linda refused to be broken. She took television roles, guest appearances, and any opportunity to prove she could stand on her own. But the entertainment world had already shifted its gaze to a new wave of young actresses. With fewer chances coming her way, she devoted herself to raising her two sons, Dean and Harrison. Away from the noise of fame, she began redefining what success meant. Though her public image remained frozen as Nova, the wordless beauty of another era, Linda herself was far more than that. She was a survivor, a mother, and a woman who learned to find peace outside the limelight. Years passed, and then something remarkable happened. The Planet of the Apes franchise was reborn, reintroducing her image to a new generation. Suddenly, fans who had grown up watching the original films were eager to meet the woman who had left such an indelible mark with her silence. Linda began appearing at conventions and retrospectives, and audiences greeted her with admiration and affection. To them, she wasn't a forgotten actress, she was part of cinematic history. With grace and honesty, she shared her memories, speaking openly about both the hardships and the pride she felt in being part of such an enduring story. Looking back at her photographs from the bright-eyed teenager in Maryland to the poised Hollywood starlet, and later the serene woman embracing her past, Linda's journey unfolds like a film in itself. She was the small-town dreamer who made it to the top, lost it all, and still found her way back to herself. Fame may have dimmed, but her legacy only grew stronger with time. There's something beautifully poetic about it, that the woman who once played a character without a voice would one day be celebrated for the voice she finally found. Linda Harrison's legacy isn't just in the films that made her famous. It lives in the resilience she carried through every chapter of her life. She proved that beauty can open doors, but it's strength, grace, and perseverance that keep them open. Her story reminds us that every star, no matter how briefly they shine, leaves behind a trace of light. And in Linda's case, that light still burns as the hauntingly beautiful nova. And as a woman whose quiet strength transcended the silence she once portrayed, if Linda Harrison's journey moved you, her rise, her struggles, and her enduring spirit, take a moment to keep her story alive. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories that deserve to be remembered.